Hello everyone, my name is Oni, and welcome to the review. So, Lego Ninjago Dragon Rising Season 4 just came out with its full Part 1 season. So, I wanted to go over my thoughts and opinions on the season since it just came out. I was able to watch the whole thing, and I took notes for the first time in my Ninjago watching history. I took notes, because so much happened, and I knew a lot was going to happen, and I was going to need to remember. So, while watching the season for the first time, I took down my thoughts, notes, and pretty much how I was feeling throughout watching the season, and I took a lot of notes. I don't remember writing this much, and a lot of these make no sense, and to be fair, that's 100%. That's 100% what I would expect from me. So, before we get into spoilers, I wanted to give my non-spoilery reviews out of the way, because I always think it's weird to give non-spoilery reviews, because you don't really get to talk about what happened. So you gotta be really vague, but it's hard to be vague, but also specifically, like, give praise to stuff. So, off rip, it was a very good season. A lot of the writing had improved immensely, and there were a lot of concerns and fears about certain things going in, and I think that they did a great job at handling how a lot of people were going to feel about certain things, like Lloyd's powers and Lloyd not being the first Green Ninja. There's some things where I think that they could have maybe worked on, but overall I do think that they did a really good job with how they handled most of the reveals that came. I think there's some things that we could still use some explanations on, but overall I think it was very solid. The comedy was amazing. Jay was honestly great. He and Zane were like the best characters in this season. And Lloyd was just peak throughout this whole season. He was carrying so much. But he was not carrying alone. Again, Jay was there and he was a riot. Finally, he shows up and he's stealing the spotlight every scene he's in. And Lloyd's whole journey was great. Zane was fun. One thing I loved is that all the ninja felt important. And didn't feel like one ninja was like on the side cast. But there's more specifics I would actually like get into with the way that all the ninja operated this season. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. And with that being said, again, great season. When you get the chance, please go watch it on your own and come back and get my spoiler thoughts, because there are a lot of thoughts. Looking at my list of things, I did not write a script for this, if you cannot tell. I am just going off my notes that I have written. So let's get right into it. So the first episode would be episode 1 of Lego Ninjago Dragon Rising Season 4 Part 1. I'm not saying that whole thing every time, I'm just going to go based off episode number, because that's a long thing to say all the time. So first, they start with like this ritual with these monks, I think. I was kind of confused. It looked cool. I was wondering what was going on. The Lois later showed up. She was being a little bit rude, and then it was kind of like, realized that they had like powers, the Source Dragon powers through the columns. And it must have been right when the Source Dragons left. One of the power columns didn't work because that dragon had passed away. So, very interesting. I wonder if those are going to power up again. I wonder if the Source Dragons are going to go back together. And we also realized that there are cycles. This was something that was confirmed by a writer at some point, that Ninjago is cycles. So, every time the cycle ends, a new cycle begins, pretty much restarting the timeline, where different things can happen. And honestly, it's a very cool concept. I don't know how I feel about the cycles, to be honest. That I'm very iffy on it, specifically because if we do end up the next show being a new cycle, where it's like things are different in like the original Six Ninja and like a new thing, I wish it would be a different universe instead and just go the multiverse route like DC and comics do it. Just because I would love for there to be a chance that some from the old show can see themselves in the new show, and we can have that kind of interaction. Those are always really fun. I always love like Spider-Man No Way Home. It was really fun to see Peter interact with Peter and to see Peter interact with Peter. But and also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, same kind of thing. Comics, whenever you see Batman interacting with Batman, it's always pretty fun. or other versions of Batman like Terry McGinnis. It's always very interesting. And then after that, we got the new intro, which is a new intro. Perfect. I couldn't have done it better myself. They got the Weekend Whip. They got the We Rise song. Amazing. I want a full song of it, to be honest. That would go on my playlist. They merged and mixed perfectly. And then there was a quick recap with Lloyd and Aaron telling Euphrasia what had happened. And she explains where she was. Basically, she was trying to find the ninja after her powers started getting all weird. Kai, Jay, and Nia woke up in a really weird place. Their powers were on the fritz. And Jay, this whole season, was just getting Kai back for like all the insults that Kai threw at Jay throughout the years. So it's pretty funny. Everyone hated Geo's wafers. Jay said that he would rather die. Nia kept forgetting that Jay didn't have his memories. And we learned why Jay had actually left before he came back to help Nia, was because he was upset that he didn't have his memories and everyone else did, and that everyone else was so like close. So that was very interesting. I loved seeing that side of Jay, seeing him in a bit more of a vulnerable place, even though his goodness was shattered. It's very interesting. I really hope we get to see more of what's going on with Jay, and hopefully we can figure that out. But overall, I don't think we're going to be exploring it too much anymore, given what happens later on in the season. The new ninja is lost, and my first thought was that everyone was in different time zones, because Jay, Nia, and Kai were in like this place where it was always night, and they were in the new ninja were in the place where it was always day. And the new ninja consists of, because I don't think I listed it, new ninjas were Frack, Sora, Wildfire, and Ryu. Just that way, when I say new ninja, that's what I mean. And then if I start saying Kai group or Lloyd group, it's their respective groups, just so I didn't have to write out everyone's name. And then Zane, when he realized his powers weren't working, he left Pixel because they split up to find the ninja. And Zane showed up in his new helicopter in the treehouse set that was overpriced. Showed up to Lloyd, and they found each other. He came really cool. He was really fun. Lloyd and Aaron talked things through a little bit and kind of reconciled, which I really liked. I liked how that just didn't end. Like, they actually talked and then reconciled. That was really nice. I like that. And then the new ninja were just fighting constantly, especially in the new area. They were just not listening to each other. It was like season 5 when the original 4 ninja were arguing about who was in charge. It was really funny. Cole wakes up at the monastery with the founders. They found Rontu and Frohickey. Geo was really hurt as well, and we learned that Raz took something from Moo's study, a scroll. And then there was a fight with some elemental monsters. That was a really cool fight. The trees powered up Lloyd and Euphrasia. The new ninjas were in a land where wishes came true. Then Euphrasia's powers apparently did not come from a tree. Sorry. Again, I'm reading through my notes. And then the Dragon of Life, and then we go into the Dragon of Life scene where she tells Lloyd that he was not the first Green Ninja. That confused everybody. And then there was apparently a council of loyalists. This was really confusing. I wish that they'd kind of explored the council a bit more. But this is only the first episode. Obviously, later on, we were going to be seeing more. But yeah, it was a very weird way to end it. Overall, for the first episode, very intriguing. So I remember I was very interested in a lot of this stuff. You could tell that I was having a lot of fun with this. It gets a lot quicker. Things are going downhill a lot. And I'm so glad I took notes, because this season, my biggest complaint for this season is that it's very jumpy. Like, you'll jump from one storyline to the next, so it can be a little bit hard to keep track of. At least when you're trying to retell what happened. But overall, this is very fun. So far, I don't really dislike it. My only dislike is that Cole's all by himself. Again. I wish that Cole was with one of the groups. Like, I know why he's alone. Like, with how season 3 ended. But, like, I wish that, like, you know, he was with someone. just because he's by himself like the whole time, and he has no one to talk to even after like the story starts kicking off. He never really finds anyone else to like, interact with. That's a ninja. He kind of just by himself. Episode 2 starts. Jay had this crazy nightmare, and it was intense. It was like all the ninja accepting him and loving him, and he, it was a dream where he got his memories back. But then everyone hated him, called him a failure, basically bullying him, and it was all his failures and disappointments. And then Jay was talking with Mia and Kai. Apparently Jay was just meditating, and these creepy monsters are attacking their group. And then we cut to the Dragon of Life, and no one had known that Lloyd didn't age up naturally. And then the Dragon of Life apologizes to Lloyd, and that was a really interesting thing to me. I was really surprised. I thought that she was gonna spend the whole season hating Lloyd, but it turns out that it wasn't a full hatred. And then the dragon did end up apologizing. And then we go to the new ninja, are still fighting, and they're in this world like it keeps granting them wishes. I don't know where they were, but I would really like more information about this location. And there were pie flowers and cakes, and not cakes, cats. There were cats. Ryu and Wildfire were not affected by like this dream place, which is very weird. I don't know why Wildfire isn't, because she always says that she's part dragon, but I'm pretty sure she's not actually part dragon. She was just raised by dragons. So they say that she's part dragon, which is why it wasn't affected, but the only person that we know for sure is part dragon, like biologically part dragon, is Lloyd. So I don't know why she wasn't affected. It might be a mentality thing. Also, I didn't know that Wildfire was a lot smarter than she typically is, which we'll get to a bit. And then apparently Kai's team were in a stomach of a monster. Yeah, that was disgusting. And then the dragon said that Lloyd was too old to do the ritual of unrooting. And Lloyd mentioned how he never really knew what his powers were. That they were called energy, then power, and now it's life. And Lloyd's choosing to save the world. And then apparently his age actually messed up his powers a little bit, which is very interesting. Which now I'm even more curious on if golden power is still life, or if that's something completely unrelated. Is it still life? Did he upgrade? Because there's some stuff that happens later on in this season that suggests that it's life still, because he does some stuff which is really interesting. And Lloyd chooses to save the woods anyway, even though he's too old and could die from the ritual. And then the way that Kai's team escaped the monsters, they had to make the dragon throw up. Not the monster throw up, which was nasty. And the new ninja had to leave the kitties, which was very sad. They were adorable little kittens. I wish they could have kept them. And we learned that Jay can't do spinjitzu, because they were going to jump over this gap, and Jay was just standing there because they had to use spinjitzu to kind of boost their jump, but Jay couldn't do it because he doesn't know spinjitzu, so they kind of had to go save him, and he was a bit peeved by that. And Jay was really upset because he wasn't really in sync with the other ninjas like they were with each other, because all the other Jay, Kai and Nia had to do was look at each other, and they had the game plan because they've been doing this with each other for so long, but Jay hasn't. Jay is very not in the know with the game plan. So it's very interesting to see Jay like that, and I really like that aspect. And we met Frack's dad at the end of the episode, and I know that this should be interesting because he is in the Explorers Club. And I'm gonna spoil something for you. I hate Frack's dad. He's the worst character. He's worse than Misako. And I don't like Misako. Episode 3. The loyalist leader is mad that no one found the staff thing. I forgot the name of the staff when I was writing this down. I don't know if I ever wrote down the name of the staff. It's not important. It's very important, actually. But I'll call it staff thing and weapon. Something about her glory. Not the loyalist leader's glory, her glory. Then we got a flashback of Jay waking up. And this is something that I was like noting because I was really confused. So this is my exact notes. Jay woke up in the merge with a button-down shirt. How did he get that on in the merge? He was in his core suit. And that's something very important that I would like you guys to keep in mind while we continue on this season. And so Kai, throughout the season, he's throwing a lot of jabs at Jay like he always does. And Nia is standing on business, stomping on Kai's foot, hitting him whenever he does it. She stops him on his foot constantly. And my next note is Reginald Slitherbottom belongs in the Explorers Club. That is not a compliment. And I mean it. I very mean it. And I also noted that Reginald wants to kill Klieg? I couldn't remember. I never heard the name the same way twice, so I just wrote down Sleeg, and that's what I'm going to be calling him as. It's the little frog guy. And I was wondering, what did he do? They hate him. It is an on-site beef. And they're like, oh, it's just poking fun. He was like, I'll throw him off this airship if we don't have enough room. Preferably at 2,000 feet. That was a wanted murder. Then I noted that Johnny Courageous is hilarious. He said something really funny. I didn't write down the line, but it was really funny. And I wrote how Jay was incompetent and he sent people to random realms like the realm of Lee to play video games, and I 100% supported that decision. 10 out of 10. He made the right choice. And then apparently one of the agents was trying to get Jay to maybe date the girl in HR, which is a violation. They should not be doing that. It's like a power imbalance thing. You shouldn't be dating people in HR that you work at. And then Jay didn't want to date the girl because he knew that someone was out there, Nia. And I was like, that's perfect. That's honestly priceless. I love that. And then while they were investigating where Jay woke up after the merge, they found that Jay's gi was hidden and that he was changed into the administration clothes, which I noted was really weird, to be honest. And then Wildfire has a new personal policy that I am now adopting. I don't help buffoons. Personal policy. Only approved. And then Frack started snapping on Sora because his dad is a bit of a jerk, and Sora was telling him how he should stand up for himself, and that her parents suck too, and he wasn't actually having it really. He was saying that for some people it's a lot harder to kind of get out of those kinds of situations, which is very valid. And frankly, I'm not the biggest Frack fan, but this season is starting to put the moves in to make me like him. I'm not saying I'm like him. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. And apparently Jay and Rapton are friends. I'm honestly not surprised. They seem honestly like a match. They are actually, like, they do seem like really good friends material. Like, they're both goofy. They're both kind of incompetent at times. It kind of fits. And then I also asked, why does Rapton have J cars? And then I looked to my right and I saw the J car Lego set that came out this year. And that's why. That's why he has J cars. But you know what? No one had a Kai motorcycle that was the size of a J car. I measured it too, by the way, because it's been starting to get on my nerves recently that like the Ninjago motorcycles are the size of their cars, and I actually had them right next to each other. Kai's motorcycle from that treehouse set where Zane's helicopter comes in, it does not show up in the in the show as far as my knowledge. I didn't see it at all, and I watched it once, but it's the size of Jay's car, and that is too big for a motorcycle. And apparently they stole the Skull Sorcerer's skull from Shintaro. I thought it was destroyed. I didn't actually look up the end of Master of the Mountain. I meant to, because I swear I thought that skull was destroyed. I thought Cole like threw it to the ground while he was doing his Spinjitzu burst. But I could be wrong. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. And the new ninja fought the life monster. And I was wondering where it came from because it didn't show up with the other monsters when it showed up to fight Lloyd and the others during their time at the Whispering Woods. And my next note is just Ryu, no. Just Ryu, no. And that's because Ryu kind of got poisoned. And I was genuinely scared that he was going to die. I was terrified. I genuinely, while I was watching these episodes, I was on the verge of crying. Because I would trade every ninja's life for Ryu. I would commit horrible crimes for Ryu's life. But then we found out that Blake was lying to Jay about him being in the administration and working there for the whole time. And Jay was so actually intimidating that it was crazy. And then we find out the life monster came out of the little well portal thing and attacked Lloyd and the gang before going out. Which I think they can also teleport, and there's also multiple of them, so it might not have actually explained anything. It might just been like that was its debut. But anyways, we're on to episode 4, because that's where it ended. Episode 4, Imperium was struggling. Percival was in charge now. Then just a lot of Ryu stuff. Ryu was dying. I was very upset because it was 2 lines, 2 notes, 2 separate notes for Ryu. Then Zane says janky now. Zane's got a big up in writing quality, to be honest. I really like how you can also see it in kind of the effect they do on Zane's voice. They lowered it a bit, so he sounds a little bit more like how he did in the earlier seasons. But still with that robotic voice, it was actually very nice. And he talks so much more like a person, not just a walking computer joke. And I really appreciate that. And then Lloyd got a power boost from the trees. Zane is the best so far. Oh my god. And I wrote Reginald as my #1 off because he was getting on my damn nerves. He was really making me mad. I was about to jump in this show and kill him myself with my own bare hands. I was about to steal Frack's elemental power and shake him up because he was really making me mad. Oh, and as a side note, Euphrasia and Eris from Shima have the same voice actor, so technically my prediction was correct, baby! Shima and Ninjago crossover. Might not have been in Laval, but it was something. I'll take anything at this point. We're never gonna get to see Laval again. Zane was still teaching Lloyd about meditation and life in general, and I really love that. And then my next note is, if Ryu dies, I'm going to riot. That's just point blank. And then the old ninja. I didn't even realize. I didn't even explain what Jay and the gang were doing. I didn't even know that they broke into the administration. They broke into the administration, which is when he was interrogating Blake to figure out how to get his memories back. And they did that, and Lloyd got his memories back, and we got a nice flash from all the way at the beginning of the show, with Jay taking Wisp out of the dragon stables, him unlocking his true potential. We saw him in the back area of his where he was doing his show, and Lloyd showed up and says the team needs you now more than ever. And oh my god, it was such a hit. It was a hit. I loved that. It proved that the old designs are still canon, which is sweet. And apparently the episode must end like this. I cannot remember how anything ends. Everything got blurred together, which is why I took these notes. And then the episode ends with Jay giving Nia a memory smooch, and Kai just sitting there having to watch that. That does come back later. So Lloyd found the Green Ninja Temple, and he goes into it, and only Lloyd can go into the temple. And the ritual was starting, and I was very excited for that. Rontu was dying, and I was super upset. And Rontu was also dying back at the monastery. She knew Ryu was dying, and I was not upset. I was not okay. I was upset. Because my next no after Rontu dying was, no, I refuse, absolutely not. And then we cut to Sora and Frack. They're in like this hovercraft that the Explorers Club have. Screw the Explorers Club, they suck. And then they were in like a horror movie at this point. It was very like intense and scary. And then they found a loyalist in there. And my next note, I don't know why I wrote this, but I'm assuming I have a really good reason. I'm going to kill Reginald. And to be honest, I'm just gonna assume I have a good reason. Baby Lloyd shows up. Lloyd was great. They got the laugh perfect. They got everything perfect with Baby Lloyd. They played his old evil theme. It was great. Lloyd was amazing. Both of them. Cole felt really guilty about not being able to stop Raz, which I completely understand. Poor guy. The life monster was crazy. Wildfire had such a valid crash out. Because, you know what? At this point, everything was a valid crash out with Wildfire. She was a lot less annoying this season than most other seasons that she's in. Which is a common thing with all the ninja. But we'll get into that in a little bit. And then, Wildfire was being a vandal and just destroying stuff. Frack said that he fears Wildfire, and we all fear Wildfire. And then I was terrified because Ryu was about to die. And then there was a weird monster. I don't know which monster this was. I don't have any pictures. All I said was, what the hell is this monster? And then I know that Lloyd's old villain theme is here, and I loved that. Then evil Baby Lloyd, yes. And the reason why I put that was because Lloyd kind of tricked himself. Baby Lloyd tricked older Lloyd into pushing him into like this vision thing. And it was great. I loved that so much. I loved how mischievous little Lloyd continues to be years after Lloyd stopped being Baby Lloyd. It was amazing. And then apparently Aaron's parents want to have a ninja parent support group, which is the most valid things ever. Another monster showed up. Oh, that must be what that note was for. Yeah, so apparently there's an ice monster and fire monster now. And they showed up and started tagging people in the crossroads, so Aaron's parents started saving some kids. We see Egalt in the so Egalt is working with Moro now in the Departed Realm, guiding lost souls. And he told Moro, because he knew it was Rontu, and he told Moro that he would handle this one. And he pretty much told Rontu that it's not time yet. There's more that she and Ryu have to do together, and that she has to go back, and she did. And then Ryu freaking evolves. So yeah, when she gets back, Ryu just levels up something crazy. Oh, and the reason why he's no longer passing away is because of that. Also, the new ninja were giving him the energy from the life monster that was almost killed him, and that I guess boosted his powers. He morphed. I don't know what to tell you, to be honest. He just evolved. He got armor, he got a belt, he got 2 swords, and he was putting in the work. He was giving that monster the 1-2 combo, and I could not tell you how amazing it was. One of my notes is Rontu just undied. And then my next note was when we found out that the loyalist leader was Dr. LaRoe. Oh no, Dr. LaRoe is back. Who could have guessed? Wow, I remember typing that while looking at my loyalist leader minifigure, because the backside of the face print was Dr. LaRoe. And apparently Beatrix is now a cyborg, which was really cool. Her design is sick. My only complaint is that it's not a Lego set. I really wish it was a Lego set, because that would have been such a fun set. I would have built that set. It would have been so much fun. But now, starting episode 6, Cole is investigating the monster from the Cursed Realms. Jay is slowly getting his memories back. It wasn't instant. It was a slow thing. And then... throughout the episode, he'll start randomly having emotions of like when he gets his memories back, kind of like in Shadow of Ronin, when he gets his memories back and Cole's like, well, do you hate me right now? No, why would I hate you? Oh, wait, no, I hate you, oh, no, I'm starting to like you again. It was kind of like that. It's kind of like that, where like he kind of goes through the reliving his memories kind of thing. It was very fun. I really liked that. I don't know if it's supposed to be a reference, but I appreciated it. And that's really all that matters, that I appreciate it. Right? I'm the only one that they're trying to make happy with these seasons, I imagine. And then after that, he was crying about his pet turtle who ran away and he could not catch up with him. He was a bad runner as a kid. And, hold on. When do I write the note? I don't think I wrote a note. I didn't write a note, which is a good thing. It was super iconic, and I was able to just remember it. Kai might kill Jay. Because apparently... Well, not apparently. I witnessed it. I saw it with my own eyes. My pupils. So, when they showed up again, Jay and Nia were just kissing. Consistently. They were making out literally right behind Kai. And Kai was like, hey, can you guys like not? That's still my sister. And that was really funny. That was just really funny. I appreciate a good joke. I doubt it was because of payback, but I like to think that part of it was payback because Kai is such a jerk to Jay. But yeah, no, it's great. I loved that. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, when they gave Jay's memories back, they were very it was a very risky operation that they were pulling. It was something that they could not guarantee Jay's safety. It could have actually caused a lot of damage to his brain. And Nia was the one that kind of set up the machine to try to get Jay's memories back, because that was something Jay really wanted to do. And it started looking like it was hurting Jay, and it probably was pretty painful. But Kai was the one that was freaking out to get Jay out of there. So it's nice to show that no matter how much Kai messes with Jay, he deeply cares for Jay. They're so really good friends. And I really appreciate that. I really love seeing that, because it's something that like can be missed a lot, especially with how much Kai bashes on Jay. But it's good to know that no matter what, he'll always have Jay's back and vice versa. And young Lloyd and old Lloyd shook hands, and I wrote that young Lloyd was a very respectable young lad. And Zane starts actually getting concerned about Aaron's tornado because it has the red streaks in it. So we might be actually starting to investigate that now, which is really cool. And then there's some undercover loyalists like throughout the show. It's cool to think, because when you're watching the season, you actually never know who's an ally or a villain, because there's people who are pretending to be not loyalists who end up being loyalists. And then Beatrix gets slowly closer to getting her weapon. That's like a back season thing. Then an ice monster showed up to jump the dragon to life. And then I lost my place. The forest is dying, and then Jay's slowly getting his memories back, and he gets consequences. Like, he starts laughing like crazy because of a funny memory, which kind of gives away Jay, Kai, and Nia's position while they were like watching the loyalists get artifact, which is really cool, and I really liked that because it could have been so easy just for it to be that one bit, but the fact that it's something that happens more than once is really cool. I wish it happened a couple more times, but I really do like it. And the specific memory was Jay putting Cole's cake at the top of a tree, and Cole hitting every branch when he fell down. And while that is hilarious, I'm impressed that he was able to put a cake on the top of a tree. That's honestly just amazing work. And I wrote that Aaron is a menace with these rocks because while they were fighting a bunch of these monsters, while there was like a raid on the on the Dragon of Life, Aaron was just hucking these rocks like crazy. And Zane said that's not normal. That's not something that you can typically do with Spinjitzu. And I was starting to get quite concerned. And Cole was being really sneaky, real like a ninja, and then he got caught. Again, remember that part of Sons of Garmadon when Cole got captured by the Sons of Garmadon? Yeah, imagine that again. Yeah, that was the end of the episode. Episode 7, Kai got zapped in the next millennia. Basically, Kai, Nia, and Jay, they got trapped by the Loyalists in this cave. And, they try to shoot some elemental powers at it. Nia shoots her water, and Kai just ends up getting splashed. And it messes up his hair, and he has to fix it. And then Jay shoots lightning at the barrier. Kai is still standing in the water, and he gets just zapped. So Kai's dead now. So now, after mourning the loss of Kai, Kai just dips. And then I wrote that this trial is a joke, probably because the trial was so the trial didn't happen yet. The ritual of unrooting. At this point, Lloyd's still talking with his past self, and they kind of argue and fight a little bit. Not as much as I thought, but it was pretty funny, and I really liked himself at that age. Talking with adult him, it was very fun. It was very fun, especially because he was simultaneously younger, but also very mature because he had to teach him his adult self about his powers. And then that's actually something I noted was Lloyd bickering with Lloyd is great. And then Frack is against his dad so hard. Oh, not. It was a different trial that I was mentioning. So the new ninja was actually put on trial because of that life monster getting unleashed. And Frack's dad tried to say that he couldn't vouch for his son's character, which really made me mad. I hated Frack's dad with a passion. And Frack starts saying that his dad's a villain and a criminal and the traitor. Lloyd called his younger self a brat, which was very funny. And this is where we learned that Lloyd's power is very interesting because he gets his power from his connections and those around him. Which is very interesting. Which is why I'm so confused on what he controls as a master of life. Because it's not just earth, fire, ice, and lightning, but it seems that he can grant elemental power. But we'll see that in a little bit. We still got 3 episodes left to talk about. And I also was wondering at this point, where's Frack's mom? Because Frack's dad sucks so much. But then we find the undercover loyalist and with the new ninja, and then they are going to fight him, and he beats up the new ninja. The new ninja really don't stand a chance until Frack's dad saves Frack. They undress him. Well, they unmask him, not undress him. Woof. They unmask him, and it was Johnny Courageous. No, because I remember I liked him because he's made a funny joke. And something very interesting that I really liked was they kind of addressed the serpentine racism. which was very interesting. So the reason why Frack's dad was such a jerk to him is because everyone needed to be excellent. Like, perfection wasn't an option for the Serpentine, because for the Serpentine, there's a literal saying, never trust a snake. So for Serpentine to be living in human culture, there's gonna be a lot of dirty looks, a lot of like side eyes. Everyone's gonna give you a hard time, because especially after what happened with the Great Devourer and everything that's happened with every Serpentine that's attacked Ninjago, really it's a pattern, because they're always fighting Serpentine. But it was something very interesting where that's kind of his explanation for why he's kind of so mean. I really liked that they brought it up, and I don't know if it really resolved their full situation. I think this is gonna take a little bit more time, but I like that they brought it up, and that's kind of like a reason, and they can proceed with that now. And also, the Grand Inquisitor was also a traitor and a loyalist. Episode 8! So, Episode 8 starts with a new animation style. It was kind of like one of those anime intro things. Beatrix ended up in the land of monsters after being exiled. And fought her way through and was saved by Dr. Leroux and became the cyborg. Cole was going crazy in his cell almost instantly, off rip. Aaron finally got his new suit in the season. The first ninja to get the new suit, and it looks alright in the show. Evil Lloyd finally showed up because he was the final trial that he had to face for the ritual of unrooting. And Cole just kept going more crazy. He kept talking to a drawing of a smiley face in the cell. Cole ended up escaping with his broken powers, and Lloyd ended up having to fight himself, which was a crazy fight. Evil Lloyd would bring up all of his insecurities, and Lloyd was just like having to like say, no, I'm still good enough. It was an amazing fight. Me talking about it could never do it justice. Cole got in a crazy fight with all the loyalists, and he was crushing it. He took down like 7 of them on his own with his powers being wonky. It was insane. Evil Lloyd brought up Lloyd getting pantsed in gym class, which honestly, that was rough. Lloyd forgot that had happened. You're just really bringing up that old wound, which is kind of part of the trial. That's rough. I feel bad for Lloyd about that one, man. And then the dragon kept getting worse, and apparently it turns out Lloyd is failing in the ritual at this point. And Cole ended up getting his golem form back because he touched the artifact, which makes elemental powers go a bit crazy when you touch it. And he ripped a blaster off of a drone and got a gun. Yeah, he just started shooting at Beatrix. It was crazy. And then Cole got recaptured. He got beat up again. And Beatrix got her full weapon. And Lloyd ended up growing from his insecurities, and he kind of won. He pretty much said that his insecurities won't control him, but he fell off like where they were fighting into like the void and technically lost. And then the Source Dragon showed up and said that he failed the ritual, but he won because it was a traditional way that people win, but Lloyd is anything but traditional. So they gave Lloyd his upgraded powers, and Lloyd gave some people their powers back, I thought, or he was connecting with everyone. And then Lloyd unlocks his Draconis form. Episode 9. Everyone is getting beat up real bad. There's a life energy burst. And then Draconis Lloyd showed up on the scene. Then we jump to Imperium, where Beatrix is starting getting ready to attack Imperium. And Percival was standing up to Beatrix, and apparently he was a democratically voted leader. I thought he was like 13. But okay. Win, I guess. To be honest, I have no clue how old the new ninja are supposed to be. I know that the current ninja are in their like mid to late 20s. I figured that the new ninja were in their early to mid teens, so I didn't expect somebody who's in their early to mid teens to join and become like a democratic leader. But you know what? I could be wrong. They could be adults at this point. I have no damn clue anymore. Crazy to be voted in, but you know what? He got the job done. He deserved every vote he got. It was really weird to see him as the leader. I think it's because he's the only person we actually know in Imperium, though. And then Draconis Lloyd shows up to protect the Dragon of Life. And this is what I mean. I know that I'm jumping around, and my notes aren't the best. But this is also how they showed all of the story beats, and I was following it, you know? This is what I mean by it was very jumpy, and it's very hard to explain what happens in Ninjago sometimes. But Draconis Lloyd shows up, and he starts destroying the competition at... Oh, wait, no, that was before this. Hold on. Sorry, I went back up in my notes a couple lines. So nobody wanted Beatrix, and everyone pretty much voted her to go away. She said that she's pretty much going to go and destroy everyone and no mercy. And then we jump back to Draconis Lloyd fighting all the elemental monsters. His voice was really weird, but he was a menace. He was destroying them. And then we learned that Lloyd can just power down, and then he still has the suit. So the Draconis Ninja, they have the suit, the armor, the torso, and legs, but the wings, tail, and mask go away. It's kind of like a Power Ranger morph. So those can go away, and then they can morph back into them. And they have a weird voice, which is interesting. But no, they were so cool. It was a lot of fun to see Draconis Lloyd. And then I know that Cole is very resourceful with how he was able to escape custody for like the 10th time. And I noted that the suits don't look horrible in the show. So this is my hot take. I don't really like the season 4 part 1 suits. I think they're a bit goofy. They're not very ninja-like. They're really weird. I really like the 15th anniversary suits, but not really these ones. And now we're getting these, and these suits are still pretty rough. Very rough. But in the show, they don't look that bad. Don't get me wrong, I still hope that we get better Part 2 suits. My biggest complaint with the suits, and I guess I'll put it here because this is where I put the note. My biggest complaint is that it's episode 9, and we're finally getting the ninja in their new suits. Episode 8 was when Aaron got his. We don't get to see the main ninja, the main new suit line, until episode 9 with Draconis Lloyd. And that's way too long. They should have had them much sooner. Much sooner. Because it kind of feels like they could have just kept the spectral suits, and then it gave us the Draconis suits later, and just make the spectral suits, the suits that came out last year, a bit more accessible. But it's whatever. It is what it is. Honestly, I just feel like it was a waste of a suit slot now. I wish what they did instead, and this might be me asking too much, keep the Draconis forms, let them transform into them at the end of the season, but use the 15th anniversary suits as like the main suit line. And then for the 15th anniversary display, you can keep like all the ninja having gold armor for the anniversary, but then like Cole, Lloyd, and Jay have silver and gunmetal gray respectively in the regular sets, because those aren't celebrating the 15th anniversary, those are just the Ninjago sets for the year, or for the wave. I think I would have preferred that, because then we would have been able to get to see those suits in the show and get really cool fight scenes with them. And we also would have been able to just gotten them more accessible sets. It's kind of lame that we got these suits in they're not horrible suits, they're just, I think that the ZX suits were a little bit better. It would have been great to call back to the original seasons, and again, we don't get these suits until the last episode, at least we could have had like a scene where like all the ninja found suits or something, and it was like remakes of their original suits, and it's like, oh, and they could make oh wow, these are this is better armor detailing, or oh wow, these are a lot like sturdier or more breathable. And then you have Cole being like, oh man, or Kai being like, oh man, I love the new gold highlights on these. Kind of like go back to season 1 and make a couple references, but it's fine. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just my personal little pet peeve that we're not getting the suits until like the end of the season, because I feel like you could have either had done those suits or could have kept the spectral suits for and then just have the dragons, right? The Draconis forms be like the collectibles for the year, and have them and keep the spectral suits for additional accessibility. But it's fine. It's whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to go that long about the suits. Cole got his golem form back, and he was destroying people. Jay this whole season has had a really big ego, and I'm here for it. He kept making like jokes about stuff, and I just finally noted it. I know how Ryu is such a unit because he was destroying people. I want Beatrix as a set. There was an attack at Imperium where all the elemental monsters were fighting. I know that Frack and Cole's relationship is sweet because Cole was apologizing, and Frack was like, no, we're all good, dog. And then at the end of the episode, the elemental monsters started breaking in. In episode 10, I finally noted that Imperium elected a child as their leader. Then Draconis Lloyd shows up. And we got a morphing sequence. Lloyd is a Power Ranger now. And then Lloyd kind of did a thing. I thought Lloyd restored the elemental powers using his new powers. And then Lloyd gave all the ninja except for Cole, as of right now, the Draconis form. And they kind of fought Beatrix and the others, and they end up defeating her. And it was just a really big, really cool fight scene. And I guess that's something that Lloyd can do. He gave all the ninja their powers again. Which I wonder if that's something that Lloyd can just do. If Lloyd can just give powers now. Or unlock, or be like a temporary source dragon for the elemental masters. It's really confusing because I'm not sure how he has his powers. Because I believe it was one of the source dragons that left the council was a source dragon of life. And I'm not sure. It's very complicated to me. But it was very weird. But I like the idea that he can power people up, and I hope that we get more explanations about his powers. Because so far he can power people up, help with their powers, kind of use his own powers. It was very. It's not that it's not explained. It's that I have a lot more questions than I do answers now. And then at the end of the episode, Sora's parents show up. Raz, for some reason, shows up at the end of the season, has a bow, and it's another dragon icon. So now he's, I think, up to like what, 3, 4, and it's all off screen, which I don't like that much. And that's the end. That's the end of season 4, part 1. A lot happened. I've been talking for an hour, and all that was me going through my notes. A lot happened. Now let me talk about the things that I liked and disliked. First up, the things that I liked this season. The writing was amazing. The fight scenes were awesome. The story, I liked where it was going. And overall, I think it was a pretty solid season overall. Definitely one of the best Dragon's Rising seasons. Things I disliked. I wish that they explained more about Lloyd's powers. There was a lot of explanation, a lot more explanation about his powers, but it seems more like kind of retconning some things just so that way they could make the change for the ritual of unrooting. So that, just that they can explain the Draconis forms. So I wish that we got more information on how his powers work. Because so far, the way that I understood it was his connection with people is what powers him. But I'm not sure what he's the elemental master of. Like, Kai's the elemental master of fire. He controls fire. Lobo was the master of nature. He can control nature. What does Lloyd control? His relationships, his connections. You don't need to be an elemental master for that, but it charges him. Can he control life? Uncertain. Very complicated. Like I said, it just needs a couple more explanations, which hopefully we'll get in the next part. I'm not sure if this is the end of Lloyd's powers being explained. But yeah, overall I liked a lot of what they did with a lot of the character decisions. Zane was written so well. I genuinely was like surprised with how much writing that they did for him. It kind of felt out of pocket in some cases, because like Zane's been written very flanderized as like just a robot, and that was kind of the joke, is that he was a robot. Because of the fact that he was so human in this season, a lot more like how he was in earlier seasons, it makes me really wonder. It kind of strikes you. It strikes you when he starts acting like this, and I really liked it. But it was weird. It was something where I was like, I was really happy with it, but it does kind of like, if you're watching the seasons back to back to back, it's like, oh wow, he really just like, he seems really weird now. Like it's a jump in quality that's like very unexpected, but I loved it. Jay was amazing. Cole, again, I wish he was with a group, or he had somebody to work off of. I wish it was like Cole and Gio working together, but it's fine. His storyline was fine. He had a lot of really good moments solo. It's just, again, I wish he was with the team. I feel like he's just never with the team anymore, and I just really want to see him like work with everyone else. And outside of that, I don't really have any complaints. The writing was great, animation was great, fights were great, story was pretty good. Some decisions I wish could have been modified slightly, and maybe some further explanation about Lloyd and his powers. But I'm gonna probably do another rewatch just to make sure I understood everything, probably in the next like week or two. But with that being said, those were all my thoughts on the season. As I was watching it, again, took notes, horrible notes. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. I know it's a long one. I apologize for how long it is. I hope you all enjoyed though, and if you did, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.